This is Drink Nebraska. My name is Carl Weiss, and I'm here to take you on an intoxicating journey around the state of Nebraska, introducing you to mixologists and bartenders, brewmasters, and vintners. I'm giving them a chance to show you what they're mixing up here on Drink Nebraska. Welcome to the first episode of Drink Nebraska. I'm here today at ZipLine Brewery out on West O. What is your exact address here?
We're at 2100 Magnum Circle.
Okay.
It's kind of basically nowhere land out on West O Street by the rail yards.
By the rail yards, all right. And today I have with me Marcus, the head brewer and co-owner, and also Tom, one of the other co-owners here. And today we're going to be sampling a few of the beers we have, take you a little bit of a tour around the brewery, show you what they've got going on. They are in the middle of some construction, but hey, that's what we're here for. We're here to show you, hey, this is a growing market, this is a growing business, and Lincoln is honestly one of the best places to be going right now because we have countless, it feels like, breweries popping up every year. You guys have definitely made your footprint already, and just the fact that you guys are growing so much is like, I'm excited to see what's coming up next. So first off, let's talk about how did you guys get started?
Well, first of all, I want to say that our third partner is not available today, James Galentine. James and Marcus and I were all brewers at one point, home brewers. Some of us were better than others. I won't name any names, but it wasn't me. And we all came at homebrewing differently. I kind of came at it much more from the standpoint of just having fun and kind of getting going, and I was much more about the end product than the process, and that doesn't make for a terribly good brewer. It makes for a great, fun person to drink beer with, but maybe not making the best beer in the world. James, on the other hand, was very meticulous and an excellent mechanical brewer, and really understands the art of brewing and how the science works behind brewing. But what we really needed was somebody who understood both of those things and really understood how to make beer. And I liken it to playing piano. You can learn how to play the piano, but it doesn't make you a pianist. And the fact of the matter is that Marcus joined the group after some arm twisting initially, and he's the pianist. He's the real brewer in the group. So he runs the show day to day.
Okay. And so how many brews do you guys produce right now?
That's a good question. I mean, we have so many different variations of beer that we're running. We have full year-round beers that we brew. Right now I think we have 4 year-round beers in our lineup. But then we have a variety of seasonals that we mix in about every 3 months. And we just started a Brave New Brew limited series, which is a kind of an aggressive trend of higher gravity, more unique beers. And we're running those every few months, in addition to just small batch and barrel aged beers. So I would say probably to date we've brewed somewhere around 40 different beers in 2 years.
That's a lot of beers. That's a good variety, though. That keeps people fresh. It keeps people interested. And it's like, oh, what's coming next?
Absolutely.
And
that consumer is really interested in variety and always interested in seeing the next thing that you can do. And the nice thing is Marcus has designed a portfolio that really works on the smaller end of the scale and all the way up to the bigger beer end of the scale and things with a lot more flavor and intensity. But we really pride ourselves on having beers that are very accessible too. So we have things like the Kolsch, which is our first beer on the spectrum here.
Okay, and so what is the Kolsch? What makes a Kolsch beer a Kolsch beer?
Kolsch is a style of beer that is originated out of Cologne, Germany. And it's a strange beer. It's a byproduct of history, essentially trying to make a Pilsner style beer, but fermenting it a little warmer because at the time in Germany when they were making this beer, they didn't have the proper refrigeration. So you ended up, as yeast warms up, it produces fruity esters and kind of interesting characteristics that we know more as an ale than a lager.
Okay.
So whereas a Pilsner is a lager, this is actually a hybrid between an ale and a lager. And so you get a little bit of this distinct fruitiness that's known to that style of beer, but on a clean kind of Pilsner wheat base.
I'm going to grab it and give it a try.
I don't think you're going to make it through all 5 of these.
You might be impressed.
They get bigger.
Nothing wrong with that. Bigger in flavor, bigger in alcohol,
everything.
everything.
So this beer obviously is very light in color. It has that kind of nice straw yellow color. Very approachable to somebody who has not ventured down the craft beer road, but is only familiar with kind of the typical domestic beers, lagers in particular.
For sure.
But it's a 5.4% ABV, so it's not that strong in terms of kind of some of the other things in our portfolio.
Right, but also stronger than what you're going to pick up in the usual domestic stuff.
Yeah, I think you would find a standard domestic lager to run in the mid 4% alcohol range, so 4.5%. So yeah, this is a good percent higher than that.
Yeah, I like it. It's very fresh. It's very clean. It's one of those what I think of as a session beer, where you're going to be able to drink a few of these and still feel all right.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it's designed for. I mean, typically this is lawnmower beer for your summer. We released it in the winter because we're kind of strange like that, and we were just excited about it, and put it in bottles a couple weeks ago. So
okay,
the reality is that those lighter lagers are still dominating the market of beer consumption generally, and to provide something like a Kolsch that can appeal to that consumer who really prefers a lighter lager, American lager, is really what we wanted to do with that beer, was kind of welcome those folks into the craft crowd and kind of introduce them into some of the things that we're doing. And it's a really accessible beer. It's easy to kind of pick up on the palate, and the color is familiar. So that's really what we're trying to do with that beer, is introduce folks into this entire line.
Okay, and so going along that lines, like, what are the top sellers in Lincoln, and was it surprising to you to find out if people were going more towards one type of beer than the other?
Yeah, I think we were always open to seeing what the market liked. So Lincoln, we didn't really know what Lincoln's beer was. We didn't know if they wanted an India Pale Ale or a wheat beer or a brown ale. And sometimes I think the hard part about our business is to take our personal, likes and dislikes out of the equation and say, we can make a whole bunch of different beer styles, and as long as we make them well, then people can choose what they want. And so I think it was really surprising to us to find that our runaway bestseller for the Lincoln market was our Copper Alt beer, paraphrased as Copper Alt ALT. And it's a German brown lager, similar to the Kolsch in that it's a hybrid between an ale and a lager. So it has some unique characteristics that make it rare, in hard to find in basically anywhere in Lincoln or even in the Midwest. But yeah, the folks here in the community just took to that beer in a stronger percentage than some of our others.
It's a great beer because it pairs well with just about every type of food also. So when we go into you name it, almost any bar in town, whether they're doing burgers or pizza or wings or whatever, it's just a great beer to hold up to just about anything, and it really gets a lot of those flavors going and complements a lot of smoky flavors and things like that. So.
Okay. And so moving on down the line, we have beer number 2. Which one is this?
That's our nut brown ale. So that's our fall seasonal. We just rotated out of that, and we'll be moving into our winter seasonal, which we'll be talking about shortly as you work up the ladder. But this was a really fun beer. James Galentine actually designed that beer. One of the things that we try to do is test everything on our test batch system. Virtually all the beers that you drink from ZipLine have been through that system in one form or another, and we try to dial in the nature of the beer that we want, try to get the flavors we want, and the right profile. And I think James did about 6 or 8 versions of that beer before settling on that one, and when we all tasted it, we knew that was really where we wanted to go with that beer. So.
I've had nut browns before, and this is by far near the top of anything that I've had. It's like, I've noticed that a lot of the times when you get into nut browns, they're almost too heavy for my personal taste on the hazelnut.
Sure.
This is just full, very well flavored. It's just got a complex flavor where it's like I can taste hazelnut, I can taste the almost like Brazil nut in there, a lot of cocoa.
Sure.
Delicious. So what flavor profile was the brewer going for with this?
I think what is an interesting segue, as we were previously talking about the Copper Alt, and the Copper Alt is a clean brown lager. It doesn't have a lot of ale characteristics. It has, a very kind of uninteresting yeast profile, but it makes it really clean and accessible and easy to drink. Whereas the Nut Brown is a brown ale. And so you get an English yeast strain that produces a lot of fruity esters. They complement a lot of the different components of the grain bill. So the grain is designed to kind of create little bits of like chocolate, caramel, and hazelnut, and provide a really smooth mouthfeel to complement some of those fruity yeast esters. And I think, some folks really like that complicated beer profile, and some people like the cleaner beer profile. So you see these two brown beers at different ends of the spectrum of ale and lager.
Okay, very good. And you've said esters a couple of times. I'm going to claim ignorance. I have no idea what that means. I mean, I can glean an idea of what it is, but what is an ester?
I get guilty of going into brewer's jargon, but when yeast ferment, the yeast are living things, and they generally eat sugar and create alcohol and CO2 as byproducts. So you go through that process, but that's a really simplified way to look at it. What we also see are that they produce different kind of subcompounds called esters, phenols, and they can have everything from fruity characteristics to they can taste like hot alcohol if they're, so there can be good or bad characteristics.
Sure.
So some taste like Band-Aids, some taste like medicine, some taste like, pepper or spice.
Right.
So knowing how your yeast perform and under what different conditions can help you produce different flavor profiles with your yeast.
Okay. And Tom, you were telling me earlier that you guys actually have a yeast laboratory essentially here on location.
That's correct. I think one of the most important things to understand about beer is that yeast is a very important and expensive component of making beer. And so the better that you treat your yeast, the better it will treat you with your bottom line in particular. And so the more that we can reutilize our yeast on a particular beer, then every time we do that, we are essentially halving the cost of that input into our beer.
And so moving on, we are on to our third beer here, and which one is this?
This is our New Zealand IPA. When we got started, we came into business and started brewing in the fall. A problem with brewing in the fall is that you're using hops from the previous harvest the fall before. So all the really interesting American-grown IPA hops were kind of depleted in the market, and we were having trouble finding them. So we kind of scrambled together late summer, and we're like, wow, we need an IPA. We all love IPA. We'd really like to have something unique, and none of the hops on the market were unique. And we stumbled across these New Zealand varieties, and they're incredibly unique. They have a high amount of tropical fruit character and a little bit of spice, whereas a typical American hop has a lot of citrus and kind of piney funk. These are a lot more cleaner and fruity, a little more, like I mentioned before, like tropical fruit. You get mandarin and pineapple and all kinds of different interesting components from them. So we've decided, we played around with a couple iterations of test batches and found this to be one of our favorite groupings of hops. And they all have very interesting kind of geographical based names out of New Zealand. Pacifica, Pacific Jade, Pacific Gem, Wakatu, which is kind of a lemon lime hop, and then escapes me. Rakau is our last one. We used to have a hop called Motueka, and the supplies on these New Zealand hops are very limited because of the small acreage that they're grown in and the high demand for them in the brewing scene right now. So we actually had to switch out of Motueka to Rakau about 6 months ago, and so. But luckily, you have a pretty seamless transition with some hop exchanges.
Yeah.
This is a beer too. We just started dry hopping, which is something that we're doing more and more of. It really, I think, provides a much more floral nose on the beer and gives you a little bit more hop flavor. And it's a lot of fun. These guys are doing a great job, and some of the other beers that we do are dry hopped, like the Black IPA, for example. And you'll be seeing some 4-packs entering the market very soon, including the Black IPA, which just rolled out last month. And primarily, most of those are larger beers or dry hop beers, so they're in a smaller set of packaging.
And so this next one is then the Black
That's
IPA?
the Black IPA.
Exactly.
Okay, so same New Zealand hops in this one, or
No, this is actually more of your classic American hop profile. We use Simcoe and Cascade, Amarillo, some really interesting kind of hops that carry a lot of citrus and pine. The key to what we love in our black IPA is that, we provide a really robust dark beer base. Some black IPAs, they literally are like a trick. So they try to make a black colored beer that doesn't taste like a dark beer, and then you get an IPA in disguise.
right?
Whereas in the Pacific Northwest, they came up with a Cascadian style that basically used all the robust kind of chocolatey, earthy elements of a brown or of a dark beer.
Sorry.
And at the same time, they incorporate it with a lot of these kind of piney, citrusy hops, and I liken it to a forest in a glass, because at the right temperature, using around 50 degrees, you kind of feel all those different elements of kind of earth and pine and.
Yeah, it's a huge change from the New Zealand to this black. I mean, just the nose on it at the very beginning. It's just that this is what I've always thought of as like, this is a strong IPA, and it's not an alcohol scent to it, but it's like you get that warming feeling when you drink it. It's just, this is a winter beer, and this is wonderful. But yeah, and it's, my dad hates IPAs, doesn't like the bite of them. He would enjoy the New Zealand one. He would take a sip of this and be like, you can finish this bottle. But no, this is very good, very drinkable. But it, like you said, it's a forest in a glass, where it's like, if you're not careful, one of the trees is going to fall on you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I think
and so this is where I'm seeing that I might not make it through all 5 of these, because one more of these, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to go any further. But
well, we saved you a much stronger one for last. So
Absolutely.
excellent. All right. And so, anything else to say about the black IPA?
I think, just that the black IPA provides a fun beer to play with. Some folks, they know they love dark beers. A lot of people come from a Guinness background. They've tried Guinness, but not much else. And maybe have just always shied away from IPAs. And this kind of gives you that playground for that dark beer drinker to go, well, I like this dark beer base.
Yeah.
And maybe I do like hops, or maybe I can understand how these hops play, and vice versa. You can take a IPA lover who maybe doesn't drink a lot of dark beer by itself, but they have now winter IPA to go to instead of looking for a porter or a stout.
Sure.
And so I think it's a good beer. It's a good winter beer for hopheads.
Yes. So there you have it. This is the bridge that will combine 2 beer-loving worlds together, and yeah, this is really good.
I noticed that's the one you're finishing.
Yeah, this is the one. Well, we're not done. There's always chances to go back to cleanse the palate, get everything back. So yeah, this is really good. And so moving on, we have our last one, and you said this one is the strong one.
Yes.
And so what makes this one the strong one?
This is St. Bowden, right? So this is a beer that we technically label as a Belgian strong dark ale. Okay. But we affectionately, in the ZipLine crew, call it St. Bowden. Our brewer, myself and the other guy who does all the brewing, Mike Bowden, who's actually now technically our head brewer as of last week. So I've passed my title, so I still in honor kind of get a brew and do all the fun stuff. But he's a fantastic brewer, and he created this masterpiece. And it uses a Saison yeast strain, which arises from kind of the French Belgian countryside. And remember earlier when I was talking about esters and phenols, the ester and phenol profile of the Saison strain is very strong. You get a lot.
It's a lot fruitier.
Yes, you get a lot of pepper, a lot of fruit, almost a citrus quality in the strain itself. And it's not typically used for this kind of strong dark ale. And so when it interplays with some of the malts that are real heavy caramel and raisin, you get this like really interesting dark cherry and figs, and just this depth of complexity and pepper and spice. It's just a fantastic, complicated beer.
Yeah, that is the best way to describe it. It's like that first sip, and it's like, what am I drinking? This isn't this.
We serve that in a 8-ounce glass for a reason.
Alcohol content. And so what are we running with this one?
That one runs in at 10.5% alcohol.
One of the first things that we did in the barrel program was to take our oatmeal porter and then age that in Cabernet barrels from Napa, the Silver Oak Winery, and it had this incredible kind of wine characteristic to it. We figured we'd get some tannins and things out of the oak, but what we didn't really expect was the berry that we got out, and the grape flavor, and it was an incredible wine lover's dream in terms of a crossover beer.
Right.
So we might have to dig a couple of those up and sample them later.
Okay. I'm okay with that. But yeah, this one, so was this aged in a certain barrel or anything, or is this just a clean beer that has been...
What you're drinking has not been aged in a barrel. We do have some of that exact same beer aged in rum barrels. So, if you add that kind of layer of spiced rum into that, you'll get kind of a layer of oak and spiced rum in addition to what you're getting out of that beer. But we use everything from bourbon to red and white wine barrels, rum. We have apple brandy barrels. So we really play with a lot of different spirits barrels. On the wine front, technically we have a wine. It's a barley wine. We age it in bourbon barrels. It sits for 10 months. It's 15% alcohol. Actually, just under. It's 14.7.
Okay.
It's on tap over there, so we can get into that next too.
We'll wait till the show's over, though.
Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, you do kind of, as Tom mentioned at the beginning of the segment, we like to flex our muscles from 4% alcohol up to 15.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the fun thing that brewing lets us do. We get work grain, at their minimal characteristics and all the way up to kind of this highly complex and aggressive format.
And when you have the materials and the resources to play with this wide range, you have to. And obviously,
it's a little boring to do the same thing over and over every day, so we got to make sure that everybody's having fun and stimulated. Otherwise, you lose creativity. So that's a big part of the deal.
Okay, so jumping back real quick to the Brave New Brew line, you said it's a lot of smaller run stuff. So how much do you make for these small runs?
We're still kind of in our infant stages of that release. The Black IPA was the first one we put into those. So we're just kind of learning what folks want in the market. I think one of the interesting things is, and you can always almost assume this in the craft beer world today, is that they want more. And so we tend to underproduce those because we don't want to be left with old products sitting around, and so we usually sell out of that stuff pretty fast.
Yeah, that was going to be the question. It's like when somebody's in the store and they see a new Brave New Brew line, it's like, should they pick it up right away? Because is that something that could very well be gone in 2 days?
Yeah, and I mean, not just a sales pitch to go pick up beer real fast, but I mean, this beer actually is really good fresh because it has the hops in it, and hops are one of the volatile components of beer. So you want to get it fresh, and you want to pour it into a glass, as with every beer we have, and so your nose can be part of that experience in enjoying that beer.
For sure.
We do only run these limited releases, though, about 2 months at a time. So if you do see it on the shelf, you want to grab it because it may go away, obviously. Just in terms of limiting production. So we've got a couple of new ones coming out, obviously, in the spring, too, that you might want to touch on.
Yeah, actually, the beer I'm drinking is a chocolate double stout. And so a lot of folks complain because we never make stouts. We have a porter in our regular lineup, and we love porters. And so there's a lot of stout lovers in the world.
Yes, there are.
The nuances are fine between the two, but we kind of basically shot from our hip and created this double stout recipe, which is really fantastic, and then infused it with cacao nibs. There's kind of a Ecuadorian cacao nib that we get from a fair trade entity out in San Francisco.
Perfect.
And it makes a really good complement to the dark grain bill. And this has become so popular as a small batch that we decided, well, let's put it in 4-packs and do it as part of the Brave New Brew series. So we're hoping, if all goes well, to release that around Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And then we
perfect time for it. Chocolate, candy, sweets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Then we have a Belgian pale ale that's been highly popular with our fan base, and so I think we'll run that out later in the spring. So we'll continue to roll them here every couple months.
For sure. Okay.
We're not going to guarantee the quality of the date, but the quality of the beer will be fine. We do participate a lot in different community events and try to provide as much support as we can to various charities in the community. And we've kind of built that in as our marketing element. So we don't do a lot of overt marketing. You don't see a lot of ZipLine print media or ads or things like that. We have found that in partnering with people and just kind of reaching out and helping them boost up whatever they want to see as part of Lincoln, it has allowed us to receive the benefit of them boosting us up in that same way. So, the main reason that we're here, I think, is that the community has helped us kind of grow this business, and hopefully they feel some ownership in that and some pride in that, and will continue to participate as our beer drinking partner. So.
For sure. That's what I love about doing this, even with my Eat Nebraska Porridge segments and everything, going through to different restaurants and just talking to the owners and the head chefs or the head brewers, the owners of these companies. And it's like, Lincoln is so supportive of anything new that comes along. Sure. And especially if you produce a product that is as excellent as you guys are doing so far. And I can't wait to see what's coming next. I'm excited for the double chocolate stout, because I like stouts, I like porters, I like beer, and like many people that I know is like, but it's wonderful just being able to come into places and be like, we wouldn't be here were it not for the community.
Well, we really foresaw an opportunity to kind of service that craft beer consumer in the Midwest, because you do see a lot of folks kind of blowing up on both coasts, and then some folks that are blowing up even on the West Coast are now hopping to the East Coast to start production facilities. And like so many things, there's a bit of a flyover concept at play. So we feel like, this is our backyard. We can service and service it for a long time in a good way. So that's our desire.
For sure. Anything else you'd like to add, Mark?
I think that from a story of our company, our plot line's still unfolding. So we have a lot of things we're still in our infancy. We're still 2 years old. We just crossed over our second anniversary. And like any, I think, good writer, you kind of takes you a little while to get in the rhythm of and so I think we're starting to just get past those first chapters of growth and starting to kind of hit our flow. And so I think, we're really going to start to see some interesting things as the plot thickens.
For sure. Now we're actually going to take a little bit of a tour around the facility and check out the sites of what we got, and maybe see a little bit of where we're growing and where you guys have got a few more things coming in over the next couple of weeks, actually, with the brew tanks.
Yeah,
but
we're
then
doubling our capacity in the next 2.5 weeks, basically. So
that's huge growth. So, all right, thank you very much, and we'll be jumping in just one second.